Well, good morning, folks. Good to see everyone here this morning. This morning, I'm going to start off with a story that kind of blindsided me when I was the squadron commander of the 12th Student Squadron at Randolph Air Force Base. I actually know the date. It was in June 1987. So I had just taken over as squadron commander. I'm sitting there minding my own business, and I get a call from this rather irate lieutenant colonel on the Air Training Command IG team, the Inspector General team. And I knew this guy. Um, anyway, he calls up and he starts in on this tirade about this, that, or the other. And I'm right from the start, I'm behind the power curve. I have no idea what he's talking about. So he's going off this, that, and the other. And it dawned on me he was talking about an article that appeared in our base daily bulletin. Now, every 3 days or so, we would have the daily bulletin here, and it was just a sheet that came out, and they had two parts to it. One was the official part, and one was the unofficial or the information part. Well, apparently on this day, on the information part, there was an announcement for a Menudo Cook Off. And it says ATCIGIO, which is the Inspector General of the Operations Section, will hold its annual Spring Menudo Cook Off Friday, 26 June 1987 at Eberly Park. Plan to set up and have your entry ready for judging at 1400 at 2 o'clock. All base units are eligible and encouraged to participate. Entry fee is $5. For more information, contact Ms. Jean Rose, 75396. Well, the guy that called me was Lieutenant Colonel Jean Rose. He spelled it different. But anyway, he's teeing off on me, and I sort of picked up Menudo Cook Off. That doesn't sound quite right. And actually, it took me a couple hours to finally get to the base of this thing. But in the meantime, he's pissing me off with accusations. Here he's kind of insinuating I was behind this when I had no idea of it. But anyway, he ended the conversation with, "One of these days, I'm going to nail your ass." And that's when he pissed me off. And I just very calmly said, "No, Gene, I doubt very seriously if you ever nail my ass," because I said very candidly, "You're just not that bright." And that was the truth. He just wasn't that bright. But anyway, this article came out, the information announcement came out on Wednesday, 17th of June, 1987. Then, a couple days later, on the 19th of June, the first entry in the information section says, "Cook-Off canceled. The Menudo Cook-Off, announced in the Randolph Bulletin number 68, Wednesday, 17 June 1987, has been canceled." I didn't have anything to do with that either, but it got canceled. And it took me maybe 3, 4 days, a week to figure out who was behind this. It was a good friend of mine, Rat. Now, he didn't do that to set me up. Gene just took it to that next step. But God, we laughed about that. Follow on to this story. I retired in July 1988, and a year later, and I was out at the base visiting a squadron, probably around September, October, maybe, and I saw where Gene Rose was having his Finney flight, his last flight, before moving on. So I went up to the clerk there in the squadron, and I said to the clerk, I said, "Is it too late to get an announcement into the ops notes for tomorrow?" And he said, "No, not at all, sir." I still knew enough of these guys. I'd only been retired for maybe 3 months or so. So I said to him, I said, "Okay, I see where Colonel Rose is having his retirement flight, his Finney flight tomorrow." I said, "How about putting in there an announcement that everybody's invited to swing by and say congratulations to Colonel Rose and have a taste of his infamous Menudo?" Well, it almost made it. What had happened is the squadron commander was checking over the notes after business that night and or that day, and he caught it. He called Gene Rose and asked him if that was true, and apparently that teed Gene off again. Oh well, so be it. One last little story about Gene is I was the squadron commander of the 12th Student Squadron, and he was the squadron commander of, he became the squadron commander of the school squadron. Now, the school squadron set the syllabus for us to follow, for us to use. That way we had standardization throughout the command for student training. So I'm looking for something here. Here it is. Stand by. So we had, toward the end of academics, we gave the kids, the guys, their navigation block of training, and in the navigation test at the end of the course, they had to use their whiz wheels. Now this is what we call a whiz wheel. It's a calculator. We carried it in pockets of our flight suits and so forth, and you could figure out fuel. Geez, that thing's getting hard. Anyway, you could figure out how much fuel you're going to need, all kinds of neat stuff on this thing. Anyway, some of the guys would put write different formulas for figuring out things here on the cover. I never did. I don't know. I just knew this stuff. Anyway, they had the formulas written on there, and I don't know what brought it up. I think maybe an inspection saw that some of the guys had these things on, these formulas written on these things. I didn't really care one way or the other. When you stop and think about it, 2 months before the students came to us to become instructors, they could use the formulas written on these things while they were students in pilot training. And then once they completed the course and went back, they could write these things, their formulas on there. They're not big formulas, they're little memory joggers. But Gene took exception to that. He did not want anything written on these things. He saw that as crib sheets being carried in for the testing. Well, he called up and made a big deal of it to me, and at the time, up until then, I didn't really think that much about it. But then I thought, hey, Gene, I said, these guys, they're using these things as students, and they got formulas written on them, and then, you know, a couple months later, they're going to be as IPs back at their respective bases. They can put anything they want on there. He said, we want to make it difficult for them. And, you know, pilot training was difficult enough. You didn't have to put things like that in there, or at least I didn't think so. And I knew I could get under his skin a little bit. So I said, I just thought I'd ask the question. And he said, well, let me make it clear to you, Bob. He said, I'm an academy grad, and he said, I was commissioned on the 4th of June or something like that. And he said, you weren't commissioned till the 5th of June, a day later. So he said, this is the way it's going to go. And that pissed me off again. So I said, well, Gene, if the idea is to make the test challenging for these kids, I said, why don't we take some sandpaper and get the light right, and sand off the numbers and make it really challenging for them, you moron. But anyway, didn't have too much to do with them after that, be that as it may. And I was just heartbroken that the Menudo Cook Off was canceled too. Anyway, that's the story for this morning to start out with. Thanks.